Took a swing at a wrecking ball and I prayed for my downfall and I found a way to.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at the new infested pistol from the Deimos Arcana update. This is the Catabolyst or Catabolyst. I don't exactly know how to say this. I think it's Catabolyst. Anyways, this is a very interesting and unique pistol that we're getting that has an effect we've never seen in a weapon before. If you were to use it, its normal build would probably look like this. We have Hornet Strike for our base damage, we have Primed Pistol Gambit for our crit chance, and we have Primed Target Cracker here for our critical damage. Then we're running Primed Expel Corrupted for our faction damage, and then we're just going to amp up the damage a little bit further with Magnum Force. This is a beam weapon, so accuracy is not an issue. Then we have Frostbite and Pistol Pestilence so that we can push our viral up as this is a hybrid weapon. Finally, we have Primed Heated Charge to strip armor further. So you will see here the primary fire has okay crit stats that are decently usable and has pretty good status. But if you scroll down further, you'll discover there's a Altfire that is dependent on reloading the weapon to cause damage. First thing you'll notice is there's two modes for it. If you use a partial reload magazine, it does a decent amount of damage with okay crit stats and pretty good status. But if you reload with an empty mag, you'll notice it does way more crit and has insane crit chance and damage. This is why we're building it for Magnum Force actually, as the amount of damage the reload can do with this mod is pretty insane. So we're going to be jumping right into the synergies that we can run here, and I'm going to take a look at Harrow. I'm thinking about how my Covenant can boost the crit of this weapon further, as well as my 2 being able to fuel the reload speed of this weapon, because one interesting thing is the entire reload plus throwing of the magazine for damage is affected by reload speed. So if you have more reload speed, this entire cycle is faster. There are no Arcanes that increase reload speed, and that's why I chose to test Harrow for this. For the same reason, I'm going to use Arcane Avenger so we can get those juicy crits, except we won't really be able to proc it reliably in this testing method. Just imagine that you'd have 45% more additive crit. I'm going to be running Arcane Velocity, as being able to dump the mag faster means we can do more damage, but it also means that we can get to that juicy empty mag throwing faster. So I'm just going to spawn these level 145 corrupted heavy gunners over here. We're going to go right up and I'm going to shoot them in the head. Well, as you can see, with just Arcane Velocity, they die pretty much instantly. This weapon is actually pretty surprising to me. It does even more damage than the Bubonico. The only problem is how fast the magazine runs out, which obviously the amount of damage it has on the reload throw is not really comparable to anything else. It's pretty much a mini nuke. The only problem is it feels a little bit clunky, which is why I chose to build a little bit on the reload speed, and I wanted to show you what Harrow could do. So right now, the only thing I have is the base reload speed. But if I cast Harrow's 2 and I set this up again, you'll see how much faster the entire reload animation becomes. And you can actually start using it as this really gimmicky reload DPS as shown here. If you don't want to use Harrow, you can simulate this effect by just running Quick Draw or Primed Quick Draw on the weapon over Magnum Force, as it really doesn't actually need this mod there. This would also cut down on the number of formas you need by 1, so if you wanted to have a ready build 1 forma faster, this could be an alternative solution. Now you're thinking, okay, how can this weapon perform in Eidolons? Since the primary fire already has okay crit chance, and we can definitely push its crits further, and Covenant actually comes into play constantly. So this is what our build for Volt would look like. We need our higher strength for Shock Trooper and Vigorous swap. I'm not going to be running Corrosive Projection because it can skew the results of this test. For our Arcanes, we're going to be running Arcane Precision in our first slot. Why rank 4? Well, limbs rotate faster than 18 seconds in an Eidolon hunt at 6x pace, and this is one of those Arcanes that you cannot refresh. You can see if I hover over Arcane Velocity, it has the can refresh versus Precision not being able to. and this means I'm gonna have to proc it later and later into my rotation each time. It will reach a point that I don't have enough time left to set it up, which is why we're sticking with rank 4. My other arcane is going to be Avenger, as this is a pretty reliable proc in Eidolons and will be a very good source of flat crit, as the weapon only had 11 base crit chance on its primary fire. If I choose to use the Altfire, it isn't really needed, but at the very least this will help you break the water limb, as the beam is Hitscan whereas the reload throw obviously is not. Now if we're going to look at the weapon build, it changes up a little bit to this. We're going to be running Hornet Strike just like before for our base damage, Prime Pistol Gambit for the critical chance, Prime Target Cracker for the critical damage, Lethal Torrent and Barrel Diffusion for that nice multi-shot on beams, as well as a slight increase in fire rate. I'm running Magnum Force for that extra flat damage, as there really isn't anything else I can run in here since Eidolons are status immune. That's also why I'm running Hollow Point, as I don't need more fire rate since I can get that already from Wisp. And finally, Primed Heated Charge, as we're going to make pure radiation with Shock Trooper. For this build today, we're going to be bringing an Adarza. There's no point bringing a Sentinel, as the Vigilante set bonus does not apply to pistols. So on our Adarza, we're going to be focusing on keeping it alive, as well as the Cat's Eye buff, giving you a flat 60% extra crit chance. Tech Enhancements here to increase the duration of this buff since it's so important and a huge addition to our damage. Now we're also going to bring a Sarpa, as obviously this is a meme run. As usual, I'm bringing Shattering Impact to strip the base armor, then we're going to increase the attack speed with Primed Fury, Gladiator Vice, and Quickening. Now I'm going to run Amalgam Organ Shatter to increase our heavy attack speed if I accidentally use it. Tech Gravity to suck in bombs if I choose to use that passive. Modus Impact so I have less chance of being knocked down, as the weapon has pretty small amount of fall off, so I'm probably gonna have to DPS from the air. And finally my Riven, which you do not need, but it is a nice addition of attack speed. So as I mentioned earlier, the fall off on this weapon is pretty high at just 9 to 19 meters. You could definitely unlock the X-List for extra projectile speed, but the main thing is still going to be that you're going to have to jump and aerial DPS the limbs if you choose to use the primary fire. Alternatively, you could choose to try and chuck the reload grenades at limbs to blow it up, because I'm sure you could one-shot them. It's just a little bit risky since it takes so long to throw a second time if things don't go right, like shields not dropping. So let's set up our damage test. I'm going to spawn the 110 Dracarmanic Bombards here. I'm going to set up my Shock Trooper, and then I'm going to shoot the head to set up precision. So now we're going to place a shield, proc Vic Swap, and shoot the thigh as always. Well, you'll see that they die extremely fast, as expected. I have the Adarza proc here that's supposed to simulate the Covenant buff. Now let's see what the reload does instead. Okay, that was even more damage than I was expecting. So we pretty much nuked all the Dracarmanic Bombards here. So this is definitely viable. You could probably even use this for headshots for the cap. That might not even show damage numbers because of how much damage it does. You could still probably cap shot without even throwing at the head for the red crits. Honestly, I'm pretty excited to use this one in Hunt and tell you how it goes. For Rivens, obviously this weapon doesn't need one. It might be nice to boost its crazy DPS a little bit further, but this weapon's definitely going to stay at 0.5 dispo for a very long time if it keeps continuing like this. And that's it for this video. See you all next time.